I think, too, it's really easy, especially as we get older, to be in our patterns of life and our comforts and what we do and what we think we have time for, and not pushing ourselves out into that discomfort zone to make new opportunities happen. And I think it's important to be aware of that because sometimes we can take more ownership than we think we can of like having opportunities fall in our laps or meeting new people. It's definitely my experience. I really have, I've told some of my friends, anytime I'm about to do something new, it could even be like take my dogs to a new lake. I have to wrestle with being scared. I'm like scared to do almost anything new or different.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from all over the world to hear their personal journeys of self-discovery through the lenses of love, sex, and relationships.
Our mission is to show people that they're not alone and to inspire them to embrace their true selves so that together we can open minds and live authentically without shame.
We believe everyone's story is powerful and beautiful, yet it's important to remember that everyone does life a little bit differently and that the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we aren't doctors. Please consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Well, welcome to episode 424. We're Finn and Emma, and we wanted to first start by saying happy holidays, everyone. We hope everyone is having a restful, wonderful time.
Yeah, hope you're getting time with family and time to rest and take care of yourself and maybe listen to a podcast or two.
Yes.
Or at least this one.
At least this one. Today, we have a fantastic conversation with one of our community members, Jill. We've had the opportunity to get to know Jill in our community for the last year and a half, and we're so excited to share her beautiful story today.
Yeah, Jill is an absolute delight, and this conversation is really powerful. Jill has just come through a really big transition in life and is fairly new to exploring non-monogamy. Not only that, she's also figuring out how to do it as somebody who works as a mental health counselor while living in a small, rural, conservative town. And as you'll hear today, she's had to get really creative in how she gets her needs met for connection, romance, intimacy, all of that, when there really aren't a lot of opportunities available to her.
Yes. Jill also sticks around for a new bonus question segment at the end, and we get to hear some of her hilarious stories. A quick reminder that starting in January, these bonus questions are going to be available for our premium subscribers, but until then, you get them for free as our gift to you.
And as another gift, we are going to skip over our normal announcements that we do at the beginning of the show and jump right into the interview. But if you'd like to give us a gift in return, you can head over to our website and click around where you'll find links to sign up for the premium subscription, join our paid community, check out our upcoming virtual workshops, or grab your tickets to our next in-person event coming up in May. And you can also find discounts on our favorite resources like stdcheck.com.
You can also find the show notes for this episode and every episode we've ever done, which include photos of our guests and links to everything they mentioned in the interviews. You could also reach out to us with any questions or feedback, or best of all, if you want to be a guest and come on the podcast yourself, send us an email and let us know.
Yeah, and all of this can be found on our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, or there are links down below in your podcast player, and you can get there directly from there.
And with that, let's go and talk with Jill. Welcome to the podcast, Jill. We've known you a little bit in our community, and we're really excited to chat and dive in today. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
I'm excited to be here. Yeah.
Yeah, we're excited to chat. Before we even get to know Jill, you said you were nervous. So we're going to do the nervousness icebreaker question right out of the gate. Right out of the gate is, when you make a grilled cheese sandwich, how do you cut your grilled cheese sandwich?
Well, I'm lactose intolerant, so I use fake cheese.
Okay. Important.
And people should know about fake cheese is if you add a little bit of mayonnaise, it makes it creamier and better and tastes a little bit more like real cheese.
We're learning so much already. We're not even 1 minute in.
Honestly, I just thought I used to babysit a lot when I was younger, and it just seems like kids always liked the triangles.
Yeah. So you do a double diagonal cut or one diagonal cut?
For myself, I would do one diagonal cut. But if it was for someone 10 and under, I would probably do 4 pieces.
Excellent. Perfect answers, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The most important answer is the diagonal cut. So that's for
I answered
Duncan.
correctly.
You correctly. Yeah, we are allowed to continue today.
It actually was a test.
It was, yeah. It's,
Although we have had some spirited conversations about cutting it other ways.
That's right. That's right. Wow. All right. Well, we got the hardest question out of the way for the day. So welcome to the podcast, and we're excited to chat. So maybe who else is Jill? Give us a quick look into who Jill is before we dive all the way into your story.
Maybe who Jill is right now.
That's perfect.
Because I just came through a pretty big transition in my life. Right now, I own a home that I can't believe how lucky I am to own the home that I do. And I have lots of gardens, and I own this home, which seems too big for me because I have 2 dogs and they take a lot of time and energy. I spend a lot of time working these days. I've always been really passionate about my work, which is actually one thing your podcast helped me normalize for myself, because you've had some guests who talk about how their work relationships are a lot like a relationship in their life. And I love my community and my friends. That they're everything to me. I feel like it is who I am, is a member of communities, and my friends are like my family. And I think I need my friends to remind me of who I am sometimes, because I get really abstract and in my head and overthink a lot of things. And it's easy to get to a place where you're like, who am I anyways?
Yeah. Can relate to that. Yeah. I once didn't overthink something. It was really weird. So.
One time.
One time it happened. Yeah, it was a total accident.
And then you had a panic attack and had to return.
It's like, I better think about that again. Lovely. Well, and relationally, what does your relational world look like today at the middle of September 2025?
Yeah, I mean, it all goes back to community and my friends and my family. And one of the reasons I wanted to come on the podcast is because I know there are a lot of people out there who identify as non-monogamous or are coming into that. I'm kind of finding the vocabulary for it at 45. And I also am not practicing my relationship status in the way a lot of people who come on the podcast are, where they're able to have these intimate, romantic, sexual relationships with other people. And I have a lot of barriers right now that get in the way of that. But one thing I think a lot of people can relate to is I'm in a rural area and it's pretty conservative. And so that definitely is a huge barrier because there's just not non-monogamous communities to access.
Mm-hmm.
And in my case, there always is, right? But so I'm also a mental health counselor. And so a lot of my clients are in the non-monogamous community here, and it's really small. So all mental health counselors try to do it in different ways, what their ethics are about what kind of communities they'll share with their clients. But for now, it doesn't feel comfortable or right to engage in that tiny community. And I don't know. I don't know how to navigate that yet. I've thought about it a lot, but for now, I see myself in the future traveling more or moving to a city where I can access that more.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that leads to something else is then I have to find that intimate romantic, sexual connection with people in creative and different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also, you mentioned mental health counselor, and I wanted to give you an opportunity. We talked a little bit ahead of time about kind of a disclaimer or a heads up that you wanted to share, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to do that as well.
Thank you for prompting me on that. So I did want to name, and I remembered, I was like, oh, disclaimer wasn't the word. Spoiler alert.
Yes. Oh,
Spoiler
good.
alert.
I like that.
Spoiler alert. If you are one of my clients and you stumble upon this podcast and you stumble upon me and you're like, oh, I know Jill. That's Jill. I want to remind you, if you are a client, that sometimes it can really take away from your experience in the therapy office. The safe place I try to make for my clients to say everything that is in their head, everything that maybe they're embarrassed or scared to say, big opinions. It all has to be okay in the therapy office. And sometimes, if you know what all of my opinions are about things, it can make that complicated in ways you and I would not anticipate. So if you're coming to this and you're a client of mine, you may want to choose to not listen to this or talk to me first before you listen to it. And if you do listen to it, this interview where I will share a lot of opinions, just be sure that you bring it up with me and talk with me about that. And then also, I guess, to say, if for some reason you are listening to this podcast and you're like, oh, Jill might be actually a great therapist or coach for me, there's likely ways we can get in touch, but it's still something to think about, is how many opinions you know that your therapist has about things.
Yeah.
It can sometimes take away from the space that is so sacred and precious for the therapeutic relationship.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. I love that, Jill. And I think it it sticks out to me just how much care you have for your community in general and around you. And right, you were talking about how you approach dating or relationships in a small community, in a rural community where people are probably going to recognize you, and that with your work and how well that's tied in. And then yeah, the care for your your clients to say, hey, this is really important. So I just love that. And I
Mhm.
think, it kind of brings up just the idea of, I don't want to say the double-edged sword of community, but I think the care that community takes, right? That we, if we were all so fractured that we never talked, you could date within your community because nobody, if you find one person and you get into a relationship, nobody will ever know, but that's not the way it works. And I think it's really great that that's not the way it works, but I'm glad that you're talking about how challenging that can be when you're in a role, sort of a leadership role in a community.
yeah, and right, what you said, Finn, makes me think about how we also, that kind of fractured concept, it can also be relatively easy, I think, in our culture to avoid interactions that we think will make things more complicated, or we don't want to deal with that, or um, whatever. And there is this beautiful balance in how you're going to show up and engage
Mm-hmm.
when you're not, or you're going to give people privacy and space. And then that idea of just stepping into the uncomfortable zone
Yep.
and how important that actually can be too,
Yeah.
of showing up and getting it wrong,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and then being able to work through that with someone, or even like, I've grown up as a perfectionist, so I am not saying this lightly. Like,
Yep.
um, that idea of like learning how to be silly or dorky or really opinionated or whatever, just not perfect in front of people.
Yep.
And it's not just good for me, it's good for other perfectionists or other people to see people show up and not be perfect and be human.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No, I love that you say that. And because actually Emma and I were having a conversation about this just a couple of days ago about the, you know, when you step into this spot here, you're recording this and we're going to put it on the internet, right? And you're going to take a bunch of risks, and you might say something that's like, oh, that's not exactly how I wanted to say it, or somebody might misinterpret it, but it's out there, right? And I think that's, we were talking about it in the context that, 6-7 years ago when we were recording this, I listen back sometimes to our episodes
cringe.
and I'm like, what was I thinking? And I'm like, but that takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of guts to record your opinion and put it out there and then leave it out there for 5, 6, 7 years and know that it might be imperfect. And then, okay,
And if things change.
things change.
Yeah.
You change.
But we can do it different, right? You can have an imperfect interaction with somebody and repair that or talk about it or just do it different overall. And I don't know. I'm really grateful for just like the framing of this because I think it's just an important lesson.
Yeah.
As we jump in. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe then we kind of talk about, well, you've kind of talked about non-monogamy as also part of your work, but part of your personal journey. And I'm curious maybe where that came into your world to begin with.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I don't know how I found your podcast. I wish I could remember how I found your podcast. Really, honestly, it was your podcast. Listening to people's stories and the diversity of stories on this podcast gave me so much language to understand myself in those moments when you're listening to people's stories and you're going, oh my gosh, me too. Oh my gosh, me too. Or, oh, I totally do that. I never thought that was that. So that's when I got the language for it. But I was excited for this question because I answer it a lot when you are interviewing people. I answer it in my head. So I came through a divorce. I'm at about year 3 after it. The process took about 2 years. He was one of my best friends. We got together pretty young. And we actually never, even though we said we were married for reasons that are funny too, maybe we'll get to those. But we never got married. I never wanted to get married. And I didn't really know why. We ended up getting legally married through, like, in Montana, you get legally married when you put somebody on your insurance. And then later on, we had to get like a common law certificate for another insurance company. So in a lot of respects, we're legally married, but we never were legally married, but we didn't we didn't have a ceremony or anything. And so to back up and focus on me is, I grew up Catholic and I remember sitting, and so my grandpa had, like, I think it was 17 brothers and sisters or something like
Wow.
that. So there were all these, like, cousins and second cousins and people that, you kind of barely know, but you do know because you see them all the time. You go to their weddings.
Yeah.
So you go to their weddings. And so I went to so many weddings and funerals when I was a kid in these cute little churches. And I remember, and so Catholic, if you don't know, Catholic ceremonies are pretty long. And so you're sitting there, they go through the entire mass, and then the person's also getting married. And the white dresses and the flowers. And I remember sitting at those ceremonies and just being like, I had no interest in that. There was no desire. I never pretended to get married in my play. So that sticks out to me of, like, how did I get to non-monogamy? Another thing is I'm a twin. I have a twin brother. And we were really good friends. We're like best friends. And actually, some of my memories from when I'm really, really little, there's not really a separation between the two of us. Like, I remember doing this, like, sexuality and gender paper exploration when I was going back to school to be a master of social work. And it was an intersectionality exercise, and they were asking us about how did you create your sexual and gender orientation? And I was thinking back to being a twin with a cis man and as a cis female. And just like how intertwined my gender and sexuality just were with another human my whole life, since I was conceived. And so then we had all these friends, and as we got older, about 10, it was like that underlying, nobody's saying it directly. They're kind of saying it, parents are saying it behind your back, but it was like, Jill shouldn't be at that boy party. Like, Jill shouldn't, in high school, I got in trouble I was in show choir, and we went to this show choir camp. And I got in trouble and kicked off of student council because I stayed up late in the boys' dorm playing cards. But my twin brother was there, right? And
Mhm.
so all of his friends were my friends. And with non-monogamy, that really actually sticks out to me, is growing up with this kind of like, oh, you're not doing what you should be doing. And that also kind of came from my Catholic upbringing too, is like anything sexuality is, any kind of sex play or any kind of exploration or dating or kissing just always felt like really riddled with shame.
Mm-hmm.
And then one more thing with non-monogamy, just realizing that I do identify as non-monogamous. I think it is definitely my identity, part of my identity is, I always loved going over to people's houses, my friends' houses, and I didn't want to just be hanging out with my friend. I wanted to hang out with the family. Like, I always loved, like, their big brother was my big brother, or their little sisters were my little sisters. And those were, if a friendship it was almost like if a friendship didn't offer that, I didn't engage in it very often. Like, I was someone who wanted to show up and be part of the group,
Mhm.
or in high school. And so I identify as pansexual now, but I have not explored it actually, like in the field. I haven't gotten in the field with my pansexuality, but I'm pretty sure it's there. But in more of the platonic sense, in high school I had this group of girlfriends, and basically it felt like sisters. And our our parents let us spend the night at each other's houses for days on end, and we'd all like sleep in the same bed, and we'd all be, like a pile of arms and legs. And it's just always how I've felt the most comfortable is, yeah, being part of a community,
Mhm.
be it
Mm-hmm.
a little community, like a family community, or right now I'm in a town of 900. And so this is like a little community. And then I moved from a town that's 2 hours away. That's about, I don't even know what the population is over there these days. But I think it would, if I had to guess, it's like maybe 150,000, maybe 300,000. Still pretty small though, right? So like that community. So I've always just liked to be in these little communities. That being said though, I love my one-on-one time with people. So I don't know, that there's my non-monogamous spirit, I
Yeah.
guess,
Yeah.
and it's been really fun to connect with it, and frustrating at times when I'm like, well, now what do I do with it? Like,
Mhm.
I don't have anywhere to, but I do. So that's been part of my process too, is really right now accepting that, like, my friends that I share, who are willing to share that emotional intimacy with me, I just am really trying to put my energy into those relationships and
Mm-hmm.
feel fulfilled by those while I don't have um, that sexual intimacy, which I do crave and want. It's just not accessible right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like so much of your growing up was very, I mean, very sounds like shaped by religion, but also just shaped by like the norms of that, right? Like, well, you're a girl, you shouldn't be playing with the boys, go play with the girls. And if you were playing with the girls, like totally fine, sleep over, sleep in the same bed, do whatever you want, no big
Yeah.
deal.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like, but it's just so like those gender lines and those norms are just like so deeply carved in us from like really early on.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you said that, and it's just so funny, the, double standards, right, of, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
"Yeah, oh, you're all in that bedroom doing who knows what," like, that's total like,
Yeah.
Totally
you know,
fine.
"Oh,
But
girls do that," you know?
but don't play go fish over here with the boys, right? Like,
Exact
yeah.
It's so funny you said that, Finn, because it like, basically, that is what we were doing. I mean, we were playing poker with candy. So,
Yeah.
like, it was, like, high school go fish, right?
Yep. Yep. It's wild. It's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
And I think too, the other piece that just stuck out to me in that, Jill, is the exploration around connection. And like you said, it's not necessarily that there's sexual components at this point, but you're exploring that. Can I be really deep and vulnerable with people? And what does that mean? And especially as you're also kind of figuring out, like you said, you haven't field tested your pansexuality yet. But I would maybe think in some ways you have, if you're having these really deep, intimate conversations with a platonic friend, that like those can feel like, I don't know, for myself, sometimes you just meet somebody and you have like a really deep conversation at the coffee shop. You've never met him before. And you can sometimes, or I can sometimes walk away being like, wow, like, damn, I kind of like that person. Like, I don't know anything about him, but like, I can just walk away feeling this sort of like, huh, there's something like, there's almost like a little
Yes.
a spark there, but nothing
Yes.
may ever happen, but you can still feel something.
And this is the therapist in me right now, right? Is like I tell my clients this all the time, so I've been trying to like walk the walk is, when those opportunities come around and you feel it, which we do, unless we're super traumatized, we feel the good connection and we feel the energy. But then taking that moment of intention to go, and I can let this fill me up. This can fill me up. This can sustain me well, because it can be easy to focus. Especially coming through a divorce, it's and things don't go the way you want it to. Like it. My relationship with my ex-husband right now is not what I want it to be. I want it to be something different. But so it's easy to focus on like the things we don't have, or the things we don't have, or it's not enough, or if I only could have this thing and if it could look like this. And so I've really been trying to focus on, okay, it's not like the package you expected, but and try to internalize that, and also be patient, because
Mhm. Mhm.
and being patient and open than those, like the guy at the coffee shop you were just talking about, Finn. It's like then you are open for those opportunities when they present themselves, where you're like, "Oh, this actually might be that
Yeah.
Yeah.
opportunity."
Yeah. And being patient can be really hard.
So true. It's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, when's the last time I talked to that person? Oh, it's only been 10 days? Oh."
Yeah.
Just because being in this rural area, there's, like, these people I wanna, like, have in front of me and hug and see, but it's just like, "It will happen, Jill. Go
Yeah.
hug your dog."
Which which yes, and not quite the same, right? And I think
Right.
that's because it can be easy. It's easier, as Emma and I are standing here, like in a relationship, married, to be like, oh, just be patient, no big deal. You don't have to force it. But I also know that there's so many people out there who haven't had connection in a long time. They haven't had maybe physical connection or intimacy, and so to be like, well, yeah, when you meet that person at the coffee shop, just be fulfilled by the really pleasant interaction. You don't have to want more or take it more, or
Right.
but like that's way easier said than done if you haven't, if you have that void in your life that you're looking to fill.
It's harder if there's a void. And at the same time, for myself, and actually this is an opinion of mine, I think too, it's really easy, especially as we get older, to be in our patterns of life and our comforts and what we do and what we think we have time for, and not pushing ourselves out into that discomfort zone to make new opportunities happen. And I think it's important to be aware of that, because sometimes we can take more ownership than we think we can of like having opportunities fall in our laps, or meeting new people. It's definitely my experience. I really have I've told some of my friends, anytime I'm about to do something new, it could even be like take my dogs to a new lake. I have to wrestle with being scared. I'm like scared to do almost anything new or different. And so it's been really awesome for me to realize that, yeah, that I have to push myself out of my comfort zone. That made me think of engaging in online communities and online connections. That has been a huge learning curve for me. I'm kind of thankful for COVID that it gave me some experience off the bat because all my therapy sessions went to telehealth. But like coming through the divorce and then moving to this rural area, I joined the non-monogamy, your guys' community, and it's really challenging to figure out how to engage virtually with people. It is really different. And so it's full of a whole bunch of like, well, I'm going to try this. Well, that didn't feel good. I'm going to try that. Well, that didn't feel good. Well, actually, that didn't feel good, but I'm going to keep trying it because actually, maybe it'll start to feel better or someone will help me figure it out or something, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No,
It's
yeah.
not easy.
It's not easy. I will say, even as the community leaders,
Yeah.
we're figuring it out. I mean, I think that honestly, I will say the big part of why this show exists, why our community exists, is because the things that everybody else is learning in those spaces and learning here are the things that I know I needed to learn. Right. And so
yeah.
I've gotten to
Yeah.
sit and talk to 400 and some episodes worth of people about relationships. And it's been a thing that I needed to learn for myself, and it didn't exist. So I'm like, well, now it exists and I'm going to learn from it. And so
Yeah.
we're all learning out here. And I think to show up, I actually love that you show up with that mindset to say, like, I'm curious, I don't know, and I want to learn. Because it can also be easy to show up sometimes and be like, I already know everything, right? To like, as a defense mechanism, like, I already know all that stuff, I don't need to learn anything. And that can get you into a really stuck place.
Oh, I love that you just said that because that is how I feel about y'all have started doing little workshops
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and they're free for the community. I show up to those, or I've shown up to one, but when I show up to group things with the community, oftentimes a lot of the things we'll talk about, like right from my work with relationships in my job, I know all the language. I know attachment. I know social skills. I know when they're lacking. I know all these things like book, like,
Mm-hmm.
textbook.
Yeah, you got the DSM in the brain.
Totally,
Yeah.
right. But when I show up into those spaces or I try to foster a connection with someone after, it just makes me realize how it's all new.
Mm-hmm.
It's all, putting what you know into action, and especially for me virtually, and probably for a lot of us virtually, because like a lot of us went to public school or went to school. So we at least have some of that like interaction face to face or whatever. But trying to create those opportunities virtually is challenging. And for me, I've realized I even thought about leaving your community this last time I came around to a year. And I was like, no, Jill, you have like these are your people and you have to stay connected to them. And just because you don't like the virtual thing or it's hard for you or it's hard to figure out, like, don't leave it. Don't stop.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I just really appreciate that. And I think it's real. And I know the virtual space isn't for everybody. And it is hard. It's
Yeah.
hard sometimes
Yeah, it sure is.
to keep that going. And so I don't know. I
Especially
love
when
those
we're on
conversations.
devices so much
Totally.
anyway.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I'm curious. So, Jill, you said you haven't field tested your pansexuality. Have you field tested like non-monogamy in some ways over the last few years?
The ways, so this adds to how I came to non-monogamy and understanding that I am non-monogamous. In looking back at the times where I have enjoyed sex for extended periods of time, I realize that for lack of a better phrase, okay, I came to this podcast committing to being as opinionated and true to my opinions as possible. So I'm going to do it.
Yeah,
I
disclaimer
don't-
here, listeners.
Disclaimer. I don't enjoy sex in captivity.
Yeah.
And what that means for me is that when I look back at my most favorite sexual experiences in my life, once I got over the Catholic shame and just even started engaging in sexual experiences.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a whole thing in itself.
That was definitely a whole thing in itself, especially because I think I'm somewhere in the neurodivergent spectrum. So I think I was kind of like a rule follower. So there's a lot wrapped up in why maybe the shame was so hard for me. But the best sex I've had in my life has been with friends with benefits. I've had, let's see, it started in my early 20s. And one was a really close friend who just showed me that sex could be amazing. He was also quite feminine. So I was really attracted to that. And I don't know where he is these days. Again, if he stumbles across this podcast, I'm not sure how he identifies at this point in his journey. And then there was this guy who I would always go chat with him at the wine bar, and he was behind the bar, and we'd always talk about magazine articles and dork out on science stuff, and then every once in a while we would go have super hot sex afterwards. And so those relationships, right, I don't know if it's because of the places in the country I've lived in, but they're kind of a no-no. And besides my closest girlfriends, you don't really talk about them with people. Even some of my first sexual experiences in high school, which I always felt bad because I was still trying to get rid of my Catholic shame. But even some of those silly experiences, it was almost always with a guy who had was on a break with his girlfriend or something.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time I was like, oh, is that because I'm afraid of commitment? And I've actually decided to throw that whole theory just in the dumpster fire. I don't think I'm afraid of commitment at all. I think it's just really the way that I enjoy sex. So it is kind of interesting with pansexuality, the definition, because it's really about the personality connection for me. That's the turn on.
Mm-hmm.
And I can be connected to somebody's personality in, just like you were saying, over coffee. And it's the sexual, the desire and the arousal is there. Or it can be with a friendship where I've had for years. And then after years, I'm in my head, because again, it's just really not normalized here. In my head, I'm and I could probably have some sexy time with this person and probably be pretty fun, but it probably won't happen, but that might be fun. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I love you talking about this, because I think it blows away so many of the stereotypes,
Yeah, I was
and the
gonna
tropes
say.
that you hear
Yeah.
out in especially in mainstream, which is sex is going to happen when you hit this huge passion and you fall in love and it's going to sweep you off your feet. And for you to come and say, some of my best sexual experiences were these friendships. We would hang out and talk about this, and then we would have awesome sex once in a while.
Yeah.
And that
Well, and talk about pushing against the Catholic
Oh,
upbringing
geez.
too.
Right. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
those aren't, you're only supposed to be doing it to make babies. And so, right.
Totally. And so and I'm glad you said that actually, Finn, is because like that's what I meant by sex in captivity is any time I have been in a long-term relationship and like I actually like there's people I want to go back to and apologize because it's like almost I didn't even know, like I feel like there's been a few people who have said, "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me that this was your experience?" And I didn't even know how to say it. I didn't because the relationship escalator is so normalized that it just seemed like if we're having hot sex, then we should be in a relationship and then we should start living together. And I always started living with people pretty quickly. And then just like for me, the sexual fire dies really fast. And I think that if I had known, I would have saved myself lots of depressive episodes and I would have saved the other person just like not understanding why I had lost some kind of fire that we had had,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but I didn't even know.
Yeah.
I was just like, I had no idea why. I was
Yeah.
like, how do I like sex? And it was like, oh, well, maybe it's not novel anymore. And I really don't think that's it. I think it's diversity. And, coming through my divorce and so my whole life too, I had a twin brother. I was always hyper focused on him. We had a good household, but not a lot of emotional connection, like not quite what we needed emotionally. So I tended to be the caregiver. So I focused on my brother. Then I had a little sister. I focused on her. We shared a bedroom. Then I always had roommates. I hyper focused on them. I think I lived alone maybe once for a few months and I was probably drinking or smoking pot a lot. So I didn't really do a lot of self work. But now living by myself, I realize that I think also my sexual relationships will be healthier in the future because I know now that, like, I've always known I need time to myself, but now I know more of why and how it keeps me excited and engaged in my
Yeah.
relationships that I
Yeah.
have with people. Yeah.
Well, I think like we're also taught, well, not everybody, but often we're taught that alone time or like needing a lot of alone time is bad for some reason. Like that
Mhm.
you or that you're too isolated or things like that, which is definitely can happen for sure.
Right. Yeah.
But if you the relationship with alone time, figuring out what you need for yourself is so vital to show up in relationships with people.
Yeah, and isn't it funny saying it out loud? It's like, well, duh.
Right.
Like that's how I always feel. It's like, well, duh. But then it's like, well, I guess I just really had to. I don't know. It's just that idea of I'm a therapist, but I have my own therapist, and I think it's so important to have people tell you what you already know, but like you need to know this right now, or like you need to focus on this right now,
Yeah.
or just like when we're talking right now, Emma. Right? It's just like it's important to state the obvious right now.
Right.
Exactly what it is.
Yeah, yeah, because we're all constantly trying to figure ourselves out, where we're at today, and also undo our histories a lot of the time, push against societal norms, figure it all out. Like, there's constantly so much happening.
It's true. Sometimes instead of thinking of it as complicated, I like to think of it as complex.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And I'm also curious, a little you said you coming out of divorce, like, how long was that relationship? Because I imagine that likely had a big impact as well.
Yeah, it was a 15-year relationship, and it's like I make this a lot. So again, like the difference between like sexual and platonic is pretty important to me, even though the intimacy really kind of feels very the same for me.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's why I make this comparison is like I was with my ex-husband for 15 years plus, kind of, because we also had a lot of like the ending time. And I had a twin brother for I moved away from home, and from like my twin brother and I went to the same college, and like we rented a house together and stuff, and I moved away to a different state when I was 22. So like I went from a 22-year like twin relationship, which is still good, but I transitioned out of that into my 15-year relationship with my ex-husband. So, being yeah, I'm definitely in a whole new phase of life right now. So,
Mhm.
This is kind of the first time you've really lived alone, and
yep.
you've gotten choice, like who do I want to be, without any influence from somebody living with you, telling you, or leading by example, whether you want to follow that example or not.
Or someone to hyper focus on
Yeah.
Mhm.
when now, I mean, I use the word hyper focus because like I guess I didn't really realize I hyper focused until it's like another thing I want to apologize to people about is like, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I hyper focused so much. It must have been exhausting to live with me because now I hyper focus on myself and I can be like, oh, I'm nobody else is here. So I hyper focus on myself now,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
probably good for me in some respects.
Yeah, and it also makes some sense with being the twin, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you grow up from conception, you have somebody right there
Yes.
with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
It can't I think it's so important. I appreciate you validating that because sometimes I'll bring up that I was a twin and I try to kind of make this point of like, it's a big deal. And people are like, oh yeah. I mean, think of how much it changes your attachment, your how you develop attachment when you're always like I said, like, my first few years of life, if I remember some of my earliest memories, it's like, I can't even remember really who was who. It's kinda like this muddle of, like, body parts and person, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, that's such a different life experience
Yeah.
than someone who doesn't have that person.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, did that bad thing happen, or good thing, did that thing happen to him or to me? I don't really know.
Yeah.
It was one of us, or
Yep.
maybe both of us. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah.
Well, and so I'm curious, as you're starting to hyper focus on Jill for the first time,
Uh-huh.
looking ahead, and again, we're not gonna hold you to this, but we might check in on you in a year or two.
Okay.
But I'm curious, where, like, if you were to design Jill's ideal, like, relationship landscape, what would you create for yourself?
I love that question because I hope that I know, like I said, the reason I came on this podcast is I know there's other people experiencing this where they're like in a rural situation, rural area,
Mhm.
and they're just, they're 40 something or 30 something, just going like, oh, non monogamy. Oh my gosh, I'm totally non monogamous. And then just going, what does my future look like? I feel like right now, when I think of that, I mean, it's like it's almost like I have this version that feels like more of a fantasy. And then I have this version that I'm trying to like work on that seems more realistic. And that being said, I don't know if it's topic for more conversation, but it's been really helpful for me to identify what fantasy is in my life. But if I could have like, okay, realistically, I see myself traveling more often and making connections with new people. I would love to find someone who, and it could be a friend I already have that I just haven't even had a conversation with and don't even know that that's something they're interested in or is possible. But I would love to have somebody to travel with to go to some different community, non-monogamy or kink or different kinds of sex positive communities. I'd love to start doing more traveling and meet people that way. But as a solo woman, cis woman, I'm not, I know I'm not going to be able, I know I'm not the person to do that by myself unless it's a perfect situation. I'd rather have like a partner in crime with me
Mm-hmm.
as we do it, just for safety. But I would love to just have a few friends with benefits where we get together and have sexy time like once a month or every 2 weeks. Or, I mean, I think that really is like fantasy or not. That sounds so wonderful to me, is to just have, 2 or 3 friends with benefits where, there's different things we like to do with each other. So it kind of takes care of my needs and with multiple people, and just have some sexual exploration with people who are kind of into different things.
Yeah.
That, I guess, yeah, there's not really a whole lot more details to that. I I might be able to live with someone again if they were a good fit. I'd definitely be more honest about exactly what I know I'm like to live with, which I didn't really realize until now. Um, so I think maybe if it was the right person, I could do the nesting thing with someone. But I don't, sometimes I fantasize about having someone to cuddle up with at night. But the reality is I actually don't really enjoy that activity for very long, like cuddling. Like I like it, but then I don't.
Well, your arm
So
falls asleep.
Need
Your
some space.
everything gets uncomfortable. We know.
totally sweaty. There's a little
Yeah.
sweaty.
Yeah.
Or
Yep.
like pokey body hair, whatever it is.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
So, actually, one thing I think about, I have a nice size house and a really big yard. So I've thought about putting like a smaller home in the backyard, and then like having either like a friend live there, or so that would be more the platonic community type thing. Is like
Yeah.
mhm, having some more communal living, but separate spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love the like the distinction between fantasy and reality, and I think that's important because, and you touched on it just a second ago, and I think it's interesting too. You're like, yeah, the cuddling is really nice, but also there's like realistic practicalities to that, and both can exist, and you can. I don't know. I just think that's really important to think about sometimes. And
Honestly, it's been really important for me, and I could like talk another hour about it, but I'll try to keep it concise. Is I read it's called The Erotic Mind, and
yep,
it's
Mm-hmm.
by
Jack Moran.
Jack Moran. And he talks a bit about fantasy, and it's been a while since I read it, so I might be getting a little bit of his theory wrong. But what it was for me is it really so in some of the relationships I've had in my life, family, friends, sexual relationships, I tend to like fall in love with this version of them that they're not. It's like a fantasy I have of, and I don't even like to use the word potential because that's not even fair. It's like I build this person up in my mind, and then I'm disappointed or frustrated, or I have resentment, uh, contempt, even that they're not that, or they're not
Hmm.
showing up like that.
Yeah.
And that book helped me, even though he talks more about sexual fantasy, it helped in that regard too. Is like, I love this idea. Well, first, it makes sense that I did that. I've been able to have compassion for myself. I've always been a super creative fantasy kid. I played make believe super long. I love theater. I'm in theater, I perform and do theater stuff, and I'm just like, I love acting and fantasy, and always have ever since I was a kid, making up fantasies in my head. So like it actually makes sense that I did that. But it's been helpful for me to realize, and that book helped me, is like, and it helps me be able to actually work with my clients too, is like, just because you get really aroused or have this really intense desire for that fantasy, that sexual fantasy, whatever it is, when it's actually playing out in real life, you may not be as into it as you are when it's the fantasy.
Yeah.
And so that has been so that I think that's basically what he is saying in that book is he talks a lot about fantasy, but I don't want to say that that was my theory. I'm pretty sure it's his. But it's been huge for me because really trying to keep myself grounded on like who this person really is that I'm connecting with, which I can do easily. Like I love people and I love getting to know them exactly who they are. And being able to identify when I'm like losing myself in a fantasy and being able to choose that. I can choose to be in the fantasy or I can choose to not be in it. And that's been pretty big for me.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and it's interesting you bring this up because it makes me think back to a little bit ago when we were talking, and you made the comment about meeting people now at this stage of life versus when we're in our 20s, and you're more sort of solidified in who you are, and not necessarily wanting to like. Maybe you weren't saying these exact words, but maybe what led and for me is sort of I'm not going to change a whole bunch of who I am in my life structure to m- mesh in with you or to enmesh with you versus I think when we're in our our 20s often we're sort of figuring out who we are and we meet somebody and it's easy to just start blending and being like, oh, now we're on this path together versus, oh, I'm established, I have a job, I have a house, I have a career, I have a life, I've maybe like gone through a divorce and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to change 90% of my life to maybe adapt to another person. And it's interesting, like bringing in this fantasy piece of that to be like, well, the fantasy can now exist without maybe taking over and running the show.
Totally. And I love that you said talked about enmeshing with another person because that's been an issue for me and it makes sense to me why. But also enmeshing with someone's life and really trying to work on who I am as an individual and keeping our needs in mind,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
our specific needs. The fantasy too of, I mean, we see it everywhere. I've shared this on the community a little bit, but like that frustration I get right now, I think it's getting easier. But marriage announcements are like from family and friends is like our two lives are going to be one now. And then also as a solo woman, I'm a threat to some relationships. And that has been really heartbreaking for me. And that's how I remembered some of my experiences when I was younger with my twin brother and kind of the parents' beliefs of like, she shouldn't be at the all boy party
Mm-hmm.
is, through my divorce, I've lost couple friendships and I didn't expect it to happen. And it has been really heartbreaking. And I now as navigating as a solo woman, I will come across, I'll be making new friends and a lot of people are married and I can feel the you're a threat vibe from it's usually the woman in the relationship. And that's been an interesting wrestle for me, something to wrestle with because I've really moved into this place in my life where even if I don't agree with what a cis woman or, I mean, and any woman really, but to focus on cis women right now is I want to always lift women up and be an advocate for women because I know the culture that we've grown up in, and we don't need to be enemies and we don't need to get petty, and two wrongs don't make a right, I guess. And so when I come across those relationships where it's like, oh, these people might be friends and I feel that vibe or there's something said behind my back, I these days I'm trying to just really steer clear of it. That's my best technique I've noticed to keep respecting that woman and wherever she's at. And even though I have this like desire within me to be friends with both of them, or maybe I'm hitting it off friendly wise with her husband. If they're in a couple and they are monogamous and I'm getting that feeling, I have been deciding to just steer away from it. Not because I'm like, oh, I got to stay away from that. It's more just like I want to give that respect to that woman. And also, I don't have time. I don't want to. I'm not gonna play those games. I'm not gonna do that anymore. I have engaged in those kinds of like, well, I'm gonna be friends with him anyways. And I guess that's one way I've changed in the last year. I've decided like I just want to give that woman respect, steer clear. There's lots of other awesome people out there that I can meet, and
Yeah.
I'll just keep
Yeah.
If you're feeling that like tension from her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really thrilled you shared this, Joe, because not because you're experiencing it, but actually the episode that's going to come out, I will say next week as of recording. So it should be episode 410. If you're listening to this, you go back in time. With Kristen, she talks about this exact thing, and she went through a divorce or a separation, and in her 40s was single and dating and looking and building community. And she's like, I was a threat to every single friend I had. All of my married friends, I became a threat to them and to their relationships. And like it really messed with her. And so
It's really hard, especially when you're going through divorce. And I think, a lot of people can relate to breakups, and divorce is a breakup, and it's a pretty intense. It's probably more intense because of all of what it should have been or what it was going to be, or
Yeah.
lose, whatever.
Yeah.
But then also to realize that there's these people who like, and it's life. It is life. People come and go in our lives. But to be surprised when
Mhm.
there's a lot of people who have this particular feeling and you did not anticipate it until you were standing there as a solo woman.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. That is at what point is it worse to not have the support of your friends than when you're going through something like this and all of a sudden you're seen as you're a threat when all you're looking for is connection and support
Yeah.
as you're
I think-
navigating a divorce.
Yeah, I think that or like, also, I'm going to name this because I'm sure it's other people's experiences where like you're like, oh my gosh, I am non-monogamous. Oh my gosh, I am pansexual. And then there's these few people during that transition where you're like, I think I'm non-monogamous.
Yeah.
And so then you don't know if it was that you outed yourself
Yeah.
or if it's because of the divorce or if it's all of it. And then you're just like, whoa, I don't. But thankfully for me, I am I am so thankful because I have people who are long-term friends who no matter who I am, what I say, you know, oh, I'm thinking of one of my girlfriends. I am pansexual and I am non-monogamous and I'm going through this divorce. And she's like, oh, I kind of knew that. I was pretty sure. And like, still her and her husband are like, yeah, oh, her husband's like, come over for dinner. We miss you, and everything is totally normal. And they love me for every single piece of who I am. And so
Yeah.
I have a tendency to like want to go back to that one that's not working and like want to make that work. But I've really been working on like one of my clients gave me this word. I just love it. Pivot. When I'm like trying to like be like, oh, I want you guys to just talk to me. It's just like pivot towards the people who do love you. And
Yeah.
Move towards pivot towards what is working.
Yeah.
what is working.
Not trying to fix the stuff that's not working. But
Yeah.
it's
So easy.
it's so
Yeah.
easy.
So easy to let go of that and be like, you don't like me? I don't need to worry why. Like, yeah, right. In what world? What's wrong with
Well
me?
said.
Something has to be wrong with me.
Well said, Finn. Yes.
So thank you so much, Jill, for everything you shared today. And I'm curious, is there anything else you wanted to get out there?
Oh, now that you say that. So when y'all did the interview with Dossie,
Mm-hmm.
which was fabulous. I'm nothing like Dossie, but I loved listening to her speak. And so intelligent, and so the wisdom of just the way she wove things together was just really I'm I want people to listen to that interview. It was really awesome. But in it, she spoke about her work with abusers of intimate partner violence in her work at battered women's shelters. She said now we say survivors of intimate partner violence or survivors of domestic violence or intimate partner violence and domestic violence. Not battered women anymore. But as we know, the language changes in all the things.
Yeah.
But one thing I just wanted to bring up. So I work with survivors. 80 to 90% of the population of my clients are survivors of intimate partner violence. Some prefer actually to be called victims. And I didn't realize it, but I'm really passionate about it. I'm taking some more steps to do more presenting on how to work with survivors of intimate partner violence and these things. And I just wanted to name that in the interview with Dossie, there was some talk. You all just kind of exchanged some. We're talking conversationally about abusers and what I don't know. She was really excited about a treatment modality that might help in recovering from being an aggressor.
Mm-hmm.
And I I think I know it's kind of like off topic of me, but I wanted to just put a little blip in here about intimate partner violence and that intimate partner violence, one thing everyone should know about it is that it always has emotional manipulation and abuse in it. So if it has physical violence, then the emotional abuse and manipulation is there always. And something a myth about domestic violence is that it has to have some kind of physical violence when very, very oftentimes it has no physical violence at all. And so I just wanted to make that clear to our listeners that if you're in a relationship that you feel like you don't have as much agency or control in your relationship, decision making isn't something that you get to take part of, and it's been a pattern over time, that is intimate partner violence, that is domestic violence. And the likelihood that the aggressor is going to change is almost zero. And I just wanted to make that clear because as a social worker, that was really hard for me to accept, is that aggressors don't change. Basically, we could say that aggressors don't change. And so I just wanted to put that nuance in there about intimate partner violence because we can speak to how awesome it would be to keep working on helping aggressors heal and change. And I think it's important when you're in a relationship like that to start to go through the acceptance process of this person who has the power and control in this relationship is not going to change. Because it can be helpful in the process of starting to let go and realize that relationship it's not a we problem. It's a mostly one person problem. That's what makes intimate partner violence unique. Is it very oftentimes it is a we problem, but in intimate partner violence, it's a one person problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you, Jill. And to maybe clarify, it's not that they can't change, and I think that's the nuance there is they can, but they're not likely to
Yeah.
they're on their own. They're not just going to wake up one day and be like, "Oh boy, look what I need to do."
Yeah, and that it's more of a statistic, right? It's
Mhm.
statistically, but it's also important. It's kind of the same with disordered eating. It the recidivist, the word, I always stumble on this word, but recidivism, or basically it's when you're going to reoffend, or you're going to do it again, or you're going to fall back into it. With disordered eating, it's high. And it's just good to know in the knowledge of like what the path looks like forward, is that there's going to be a lot of these like relapses. And so I think in intimate partner violence, it's important to know that like it very likely will not change, because a lot of people stay in those relationships, and it's more complicated than this, but like thinking it will change, or something I do will change it. And the likelihood is that it won't change. Yes, I hope. Yeah. I mean, the work that I do is in hopes that we do change it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And to give these people support, because I will just kind of say most likely, and probably most cases, they're not terrible, evil people. They're people who came from probably trauma, terrible background, like they have all sorts of stuff going on too. And that's how it's coming out. And so to be able to provide, and I think this is what a lot of Dossie was talking about too, is like support for these people, not to say, oh, no big deal, but can we not just write you off and exclude you from society? Because that doesn't help either.
Right. I think what gets complicated in the support is that accountability piece. And
Yes.
the accountability piece is what ends up becoming lacking in a lot of the support programs for aggressors or abusers, is that it's easy to fake or not really internalize, just kind of like any therapy work where you can go and kind of show up and say all the right things, and you're not really getting the work done.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's the piece, just that it's important to not be part of the gaslighting, not be part of the like, oh, things are better, when like maybe they are for a little bit, but they're actually not. It's just,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And to your point, having somebody that's potentially in that relationship be able to start to come to acceptance with that.
Yeah, it's really intense. That's where the grief is. And I could go on, but it's really intense to accept that this person you love is going to keep treating you poorly,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you, Joe.
Yes.
And appreciate you coming on and sharing your story today. And also thank you for all of the work you do. And again, you kind of said at the beginning that there'd be a way for people to get in touch with you if what you're talking about resonated. So if you're listening to this and want to get in touch with Jill, there's an email address in the show notes that you can reach out to Jill through.
Yeah.
And so please do.
Yeah. And I just want to thank you again for everything today, and for bringing up the intimate partner violence as well. It's such a great reminder for people. So thank you. And we're excited to chat more and see you around the community.
Yeah. And because we're now doing these bonus questions, so if you are a premium subscriber, you get to stick around and listen to the extra credit questions that we're going to fire at Jill. And for the rest of you, this is the end of the road. So we will see you all next week. All right. So
we're going to jump into the questions.
Yeah. Welcome back, listeners, premium subscriber listeners. Thank you for supporting our work and for being here with Jill. Jill has agreed to have a mix of spicy and mild questions. And so we're gonna, Emma's got the mild, I've got the spicy.
Okay. First question. Something I grew up thinking was normal, but later found out wasn't.
There's so many things. Oh my goodness. Let me think. Honestly, I'll just say the first thing that came to mind was marriage.
Yeah.
I guess it is still kind of normal, but in my mind, it's like validating that it's okay, Jill. You never liked the idea, and you still don't.
Well, and having lived it, you had some experience. You field tested it.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
Not for me at the moment. Love it. All right. What is a memorable piece of sex advice you've received?
That the first time you try something, unless it feels like really, really dangerous or unsafe for you, that if it's like maybe mildly discomfortable or uncomfortable, or you don't think you really like it, to keep trying it a few more times. And just that idea of playfulness and exploring. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't cross your boundaries or put yourself in danger. But if you're like, I don't know, a little lukewarm on that, maybe it's okay to try it twice, try it 3 times.
Yeah.
And for someone who came from like a pretty intense shame cycle as a kid, actually sometimes I don't like it the first time.
Mhm.
But if I really didn't get into the unsafe zone, I just think I didn't like it, for me it's good to try it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
actually think that's so important to
Yeah.
just keep in mind, right? Is that sometimes these things we're doing, it's not that we don't want to do them, it's that we've been told we shouldn't want to do them.
Yes.
And so that's what's getting in the damn way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
once you start to like learn, okay, I can do this, this is okay. Oh, look over there, other people are doing it. Maybe it's okay for me. All of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm really into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Brilliant. All right, Emma.
Next up, the worst date I've ever been on.
Ooh.
Okay, this is what I was actually thinking of for my blooper, but it didn't really seem like much of a blooper. Like for like I don't know, it didn't seem like it fit, but it wasn't so much a date, but like there was this. I was in I went to I did my undergraduate college experience in 2 different states. First my home state, and then I moved states. And so I'm back in my home state, like just in college, going to house parties. And there's this guy who's on the ski and snowboard club that I like totally had a crush on. And he like didn't give me the time of day. And so we went to this house party, and I was like, I'm not a very good flirt, but I was trying, because that's what you're supposed to do, is give it a try. And so I had drank too much, and he decided he gave me a ride home, and nothing happened on the ride home. And I don't know, I was really drunk. And so I got out of the car. I got out of the car and I fell on my face.
Oof.
Like I tripped and fell. So I stood up and I turned around and waved at him and smiled. So, I have a big smile. And then when I went inside, I went inside, fell asleep, woke up the next day, looked in the mirror, and I had all this dirt, like tons of dirt in my teeth. So when I turned around and waved goodnight, I had like all this dirt in my teeth.
I played this real cool. He didn't even know I fell on my face. Meanwhile, I had gravel and yeah. Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
It never worked. He never took the bait. He never.
It didn't go anywhere.
It never went anywhere.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
All right. Okay.
Good question.
What is your favorite time of day to have sex
Oh, to have sex.
or pleasure? It doesn't have to be, sex generically.
Because my favorite time of day is the morning, but sometimes I don't want to have sex in the morning because it's my favorite time of day. So
Yeah.
I like want to do the other things I like to do in the morning. But I would say actually late morning. It's
Late
like I
morning.
did all the fun things that I wanted to do, and yeah. And
now
now
we'll do one more fun thing before we get into the afternoon.
Yeah, or like it's kind of like that, like maybe like midday nap, like sexy time nap, get up and yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great day.
Yeah, right?
Perfect day.
Yeah.
All right.
The most memorable place I've had sex.
Oh, you just stole mine. Mine said, what's the most scandalous place you've had sex? So,
Oh, I love that.
all right. Some combination of these two.
Yeah.
I wish it. So, what is it? Exhibitionism, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I was more into exhibitionism. Maybe I will be someday if I can like go to some kind of resort where that's what we're all doing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I haven't had that experience, but so far it's been like sex in the woods or sex by a lake. But I don't like how there's always this possibility that someone's about to come. Oh, God, that's
Yeah.
right.
Well, hold on, which people? Other people or the people involved?
Pun not intended.
Not intended. All right.
Someone's about to like paddle by in their canoe or
Yep.
walk down the trail. Like that's the part I don't like. But what I do love is just like, oh, that feeling of like being outside when it's like just a little bit cooler than comfortable and having sex or sexy time during that time. Yeah, those are and like or like one time with somebody, we're in a little boat and we're all at the lake with like this small gathering for quite a few days, but there's probably like 25, 30 people. And we had gone out on the boat and we were like having this like under the clothes sitting normally sexy time. And that was like best orgasms, some of the best orgasms I had in my life.
Because they're like taboo and almost like secret, right?
I
Like,
guess so. I
yeah.
don't know why. You know, what's his name? Jack Morin? I wish he could tell me why those were my best.
Well, and it's funny. So I had a follow up that I happened to draw ironically as you're answering. Have you ever actually been caught? Either it says having caught masturbating or having sex. So like your fear of getting caught, has it ever happened?
I think, I was going to say no, I don't think so. But one time my sexual partner's uncle came to the door and I'm pretty sure we had been being like super loud because we thought that I'm very loud. So like I'm I think it was like he came to the door and like heard us and then like walked away as fast as he could. But no, not like in the act. I mean, except by like dogs or cats.
Sure.
Yeah, by
Yeah.
animals,
They're not
yeah.
telling anybody.
Yeah.
Well,
They
maybe
don't
the
care.
cats, they're assholes. But yeah. All right. One more, Emma.
Okay, so this one just says, the one who got away, ...
Which now we're asking a non-monogamous person
Okay.
to identify the one. So I love the irony in this.
Maybe the person in
But
the
then
boat.
where my mind went to was before I really realized I was non-monogamous and could just like keep something as a friends with benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can think of multiple, not like so I haven't had sex with so many people in my life, but like more than 2 people where I was having like the best sex of my life with and at the time and like knowing what I know now about sex with someone is like you very oftentimes get better and better if like that's both of your intentions is like we're going to keep making this fun and figure stuff out and like the one that got away I feel like is like any time in the old days when I like then delivered this idea to the person of like I want more, that's when they got away. Because, like, if I knew what I know now about myself, which I'm pretty sure would have applied to then if I had known it was like something that's okay, something to do. Maybe this is just who you are. Maybe this is what you like. If I had been able to, like, not be always trying to be something I wasn't, I could still be having hot sex with, like, maybe all of those people.
Yeah, right?
But
Yep.
instead, I had to lay the card on the table. Oh, I want more. And it's like, but I didn't really want more, maybe.
Yeah,
I just
right?
wanted more hot sex.
Yeah, I wanted more of this, but that doesn't mean that everything else has to get bigger to hold it, right?
Yeah, or maybe
Yep.
just like more hot sex and like the hobby we like to do together.
Yep.
Yeah. But that doesn't follow the relationship escalator, so I got to try to figure this out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
I love that. Such an important distinction and an important, I don't know, lesson thing
Yeah.
to learn along the way.
Oh, totally.
And even,
Absolutely.
I think even too now, as you know this, now the trick is how do we communicate that? I think that's a place I've been figuring out is how do you communicate to somebody, I want more, but not in the sense that like we need to now, jump on the escalator, start dating more, see each other more, get married, all of the things. But like, no, I don't want to stop doing this.
Yeah, I don't want to stop doing this. And maybe there is a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't have to do with the escalator.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Actually, I think sometimes we don't use the relationship anarchy smorgasbord enough. Have you
Agreed.
seen that document?
Yes.
It's a little overwhelming when you first look at it,
Mm-hmm.
but like it's got some great stuff in there.
Yeah.
Like if we could focus a little bit more on like, what is this relationship?
Thinking
What-
outside the box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do we like about this? Let's
Yeah.
just do more of these things.
Yeah. A la carte menu rather than the combo meal, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
amazing. Well, thank you, Jill.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for your time too. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this was a delight. And listeners, these questions were coming from
Where should we begin with by Esther Perel?
Yep, those were the milder ones. And
although there's definitely some not
there
so
are
mild
totally
ones in there.
And Get Squirmy. So links to both those are in the show notes for anybody listening. So thank you again, Jill, and have a delightful rest of your weekend. It's not the listeners' weekend, but it's our weekend, so we should celebrate it. So have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too. And good luck with grad school. It'll totally be worth it. I am so glad. It felt like one of the most important things I did. So I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much, you guys. This was great to meet you and spend some time.
So great, Jill. Thank you. And thanks for being a part of our community.
Yeah.
And we're back. Thank you.
Take two.
May have messed that up.
We started with a welcome back, and then wait, that's not what I usually say.
Anyway,
it's the end of the year. We've earned it. We've earned a flub or two.
It is. And we're back. And thank you so much, Jill, for everything that you shared today. We had such a wonderful time talking with you. And just thank you for being part of our community and just being a lovely human as well.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, Jill. And thanks for sharing your story. And a quick reminder to listeners, Jill did mention that her email was going to be in the show notes. It is there, so you can reach out if you would like to get in touch with Jill as well.
The show notes can be found on our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, or in your podcast player.
Yep. All right. What
Next
else?
week.
Next week, we're just jumping right in.
Because we're gonna skip all our normal stuff.
Oh, that's right. We're not going to tell people about relationship recess in May or joining the community.
Right.
No, we're not telling them that.
Right.
So,
but you can find out all that information again over on our website.
You sure can. But next week, we're coming back to you with an interview with Marsha Bazinski.
Yes.
Fantastic conversation and a special treat because Marsha is also the workshop facilitator for our January 15th workshop called Why You Don't Know What You Want and How to Find Out.
Yes. And just to be clear, that is a workshop for our community members. If you'd like to join, go over to our website and click on the community tab.
But we're not talking about any of that.
No, join right
we're
there.
not talking about any of that.
The point is, you're going to want to come back and listen next week with Marsha.
And you're going to want to go to our website and click around and join all the things. But until then, we'll see you next week.
Yes, we hope everyone has had and continues to have a beautiful holiday season.
Yep.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.